Emily almost canceled the ride. She stood outside her apartment building in Seattle. Rain tapping the pavement like quiet fingers. The hallway light behind her buzzed, warm and familiar, but she did not turn back. Her phone glowed in her hand, showing the car was already close. She had booked the ride without thinking. The way people do when staying feels heavier than leaving. The door to her old life was only a few steps away. Inside were unpacked boxes, a couch that still remembered two bodies instead of one, and silence. That grew louder at night. Emily pulled her coat tighter and stepped toward the curb. The car arrived smoothly, tires whispering on wet asphalt. A dark blue sedan, clean, ordinary. The window rolled down. "Emily?" The driver asked. "Yes," she said, opening the door. She slid into the back seat, shaking rain from her hair. The door closed with a soft click, sealing her inside the quiet space. The car smelled faintly of coffee and fresh air. The heater hummed low. "I'm Daniel," the driver said as he pulled away from the curb. His voice was calm, steady, like he had nothing to rush toward and nothing to escape from. "Hi," Emily replied. They drove past familiar streets. Coffee shops, closed bookstores. A bus stop where she used to wait with someone who no longer waited with her. She watched reflections slide across the window, her face blending with city lights. Daniel glanced at the mirror. "Long night." Emily almost laughed. It had been a long season. But she kept it simple. "Yeah," she said, "I needed some air." "Understandable," he replied, without asking for more. That surprised her. Most people filled silence with questions. It breathed. The car moved smoothly through traffic. Rain softened to a mist. The city felt less sharp. Emily rested her head back and closed her eyes for a second. Just a second. She told herself she would go home soon. This was just a break. A pause. "You heading somewhere specific?" Daniel asked. She opened her eyes. The question hung there, honest and open. "I put in my address," she said, then hesitated. "But I don't really care if we get there fast." Daniel nodded, as if that made perfect sense. "We can take the longer way. Waterfront Road is quieter." Emily did not answer right away. Then she said, "Okay." They turned onto a broader street, lights spaced farther apart. The noise of the city faded into something softer. The road followed the water, dark and wide, reflecting the sky like broken glass. Emily felt her chest loosen. She did not know when it had tightened so much. "You live around here?" she asked. "I do now," Daniel said. "Moved a few years ago. From Chicago. Why Seattle?" He smiled slightly. "I wanted rain instead of noise." Emily smiled too. "Did it work?" "Most days," he said. She found herself relaxing into the seat. The ride felt less like transportation and more like movement for its own sake. She realized she had stopped watching the route. The map on the screen no longer mattered. Daniel spoke again, gently. "You don't seem like someone who books rides." "Just to go home." Emily swallowed. The words came out before she could shape them carefully. "I was with someone for a long time," she said, "and now I'm not. Home feels different." Daniel did not interrupt. He kept his eyes on the road. "That makes sense," he said. "Places change when people leave them." Emily nodded. She felt seen without being examined. It was a rare feeling. They passed her street. Then the next. Emily noticed, but did not speak. A strange calm settled over her, mixed with a flicker of excitement she had not felt in months. She was doing something small but brave. Letting the night decide a little. The car slowed near a red light. Daniel checked the mirror again. "I think we passed your turn," he said. "Want me to loop back?" Emily looked at the water beside them, smooth and dark. The city across the way looked distant, like another version of her life. "Not yet," she said quietly. Daniel waited a second, then nodded. "All right, The light turned green. They moved forward. Emily felt her heartbeat pick up. Not fear, something closer to relief. She did not know where they were going, but she knew she did not want to stop yet. The road curved toward a lookout point. Daniel pulled over and parked without being asked. He turned off the engine. The sudden quiet felt deep, like stepping into a different world. "We can stretch for a minute," he said. "No rush." Emily stepped out into the cool air. The rain had stopped completely. The water below reflected the city lights, steady and calm. She leaned on the railing, breathing in slowly. Daniel stood beside her, leaving space between them. They did not touch. They did not need to. "I didn't plan this," Emily said, staring at the water. "Most good nights aren't planned," Daniel replied. She laughed softly. The sound surprised her. It felt like something waking up. Emily turned toward him. In the glow of the nearby streetlight, his face looked open, kind, familiar in a way she could not explain. Not romantic yet. It's just human. She realized something important then. She was not trying to forget her past. She was just letting herself exist without it for a while. The night felt wide with possibility. Emily looked back at the city, then at the car, then at Daniel. Somewhere inside her, a quiet voice said, this ride was already more than an escape, and she listened. Emily didn't know how long they had been driving. The city lights were thinning, replaced by stretches of quiet streets and the faint glimmer of the waterfront. She had expected small talk or awkward silence, but instead Daniel had a way of making conversation feel natural, like words belonged where they landed. He asked simple questions about her life, her move to Seattle, and why she stayed after the relationship ended. Emily answered honestly, not hiding the ache she still carried. She told him about the apartment that felt too empty, the quiet nights that made her memories loud, the moments she missed someone without knowing who exactly. Daniel listened, never interrupting, just letting the words settle in the car. It was strange to feel understood by someone she had only known for 10 minutes. Daniel spoke too, sharing pieces of himself. He told her about leaving Chicago years ago, searching for peace, for nights that weren't crowded with noise or expectation. He loved driving at night, he said, because it made people honest, made the world slower and easier to navigate. Emily found herself smiling without meaning to. She had forgotten what it felt like to laugh freely. His stories weren't dramatic or impressive, they were quiet and real, and somehow that mattered more than anything else right then. The city slipped behind them completely. She noticed they had passed her destination hours ago, though it didn't feel like hours. Emily hesitated, her mind flicking to the apartment, to the safety she had fled. I think we missed my stop, she said, trying to sound casual. Daniel glanced in the rearview mirror, calm as ever. You want me to turn around? He asked. She shook her head. Not yet, she said softly, surprising herself with how easily the words came. The idea of going back didn't feel right anymore. The car felt like a bubble, a private space where nothing from her old life could reach her. The rain had stopped entirely, leaving the night air crisp and full of potential. Daniel slowed as they approached a quiet overlook along the waterfront. The lights of the city stretched in the distance, golden and blurred by the water. He turned off the engine, leaving the car silent but not empty. Emily stepped out, taking in the view. The water reflected the lights like fragments of dreams, steady and calm. And the night felt different from any she had known, less lonely, less urgent, more open. They didn't speak for a while, but wind brushed Emily's hair back from her face, and she realized she had been holding her breath without noticing. Daniel leaned on the car, hands in his pockets, letting her presence exist without pressing for conversation. She felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, safe enough to be herself without apology. I didn't plan this, she said finally, breaking the quiet. Neither did I, Daniel replied. His voice wasn't teasing, wasn't heavy with expectation, was calm, honest, the kind of tone that made her want to trust him. Emily looked at him more closely, noticing the faint laugh lines near his eyes. It's the way he carried himself, like he wasn't trying to impress anyone. She felt a small, strange pull, not romantic in a rushing way, but the kind of attention that makes you aware of someone without words. She turned her gaze back to the water, thinking about the apartment, the boxes, the silence that had haunted her nights. And she realized that, for the first time in months, she did not want to go back. Not yet. The night stretched ahead of her, open and full of possibility. Daniel spoke almost as if he had read her thoughts. You don't have to go home yet. Not if you don't want to. Emily's chest tightened, but not in panic. 'Twas excitement, uncertainty, the kind that comes with stepping outside a path you have always known. I don't know, she said. Maybe I just need more time. He smiled softly. We can take our time. No hurry. She looked at him then, really looked. There was something grounding in his presence, a quiet confidence that didn't demand anything from her. Emily realized she could let herself breathe here, let herself exist in the night without planning, without rushing, without fear. They stood side by side, the silence filled with possibility. Emily noticed how icily she had begun to trust him, how naturally the conversation had flowed, how her chest felt lighter than it had in weeks. This ride had started as a way to escape, but it had become something else entirely. A pause, a chance, a moment she hadn't known she was waiting for. The car sat quietly behind them, lights off, engines silent. Daniel leaned against it, relaxed, patient. Emily felt a flutter she couldn't name, a mixture of relief, longing, and curiosity. She didn't have to define it yet. She only knew that leaving now felt like cutting something short, like turning away from a story she wanted to follow a little longer. You ever just drive without a plan? She asked finally, her voice low. All the time, he said. It's how I think best. It's how I let the world show me what matters. Emily smiled. She could see it now, how ordinary choices could turn extraordinary if you let them. A ride to clear her head had become something she hadn't expected. Connection, understanding, a quiet shift in how she saw herself. She glanced back at the city glowing softly behind them, and then at the water wide and open, stretching endlessly. And she realized she didn't feel lost anymore, just unhurried, just present. The thought hit her sharply. Suddenly, maybe she didn't need to go home tonight. Maybe staying in this moment, letting the night continue, was exactly what she needed. The idea felt daring and frightening, but also strangely freeing. Daniel looked at her then, as if sensing the shift. Want to keep driving? He asked. Emily hesitated, just a heartbeat. Then she nodded. Yeah, let's see where it goes. And with that, they stepped back into the car, doors closing softly, the engine starting again. The road stretched ahead, quiet, empty, full of unspoken possibilities. Emily felt the night unfold around her, each mile carrying her further from the life she thought she had to return to, and closer to something new. Something gentle, something she had not yet named. For the first time that evening, she laughed softly, a sound that felt like it belonged in the night. Daniel glanced at her, a small smile tugging at his lips. And Emily realized that sometimes the most meaningful moments are the ones you don't plan. They drove on. The city shrank behind them. The water glimmered beside them. And Emily, for the first time in a long time, felt like she had chosen her own path. It only for a few hours, and it was a path that didn't feel like running anymore. The night was theirs. And Emily knew that whatever came next, she was ready to follow it wherever it might lead.